Hey, what's going on YouTube? Or Storm here, coming at you guys with another kind of like a deck profile, but like discussion. This is sort of like the start of like the intro to series I usually do every format, or every new set. But I'll be doing more than this week, next week. This is kind of like a peek into talking about a peek into what we'll be getting in the future. Now, after Shining Victory's releases, we'll be getting I believe July 8th is the release date for the Felgrand structure deck, so we're pretty much going to see a whole new set of dragon decks running around. We're also getting the movie pack, which is not only going to contain, cubics and some of these new archetypes in the movie, it's also likely to contain our alternative art dragon as well, alternative white dragon, which isn't in Shining Victories, unfortunately. But in that point in July, it'll obviously be around that season, but you're probably going to run into this Blue-Eyes. You've probably played against this Blue-Eyes Felgrand Arcbrave deck, and it's really good. But today I'm going to actually talk about some decisions and like why I reach certain card choices, as you'll see in the sideboard here. So among the new tuners, I feel like Sage is by far the best because Sage is like a Stratos when it's normal. You can search any level 1 late tuner from your deck to your hand, and then the second effect is you can pitch it from hand to summon to target an effect monster you control, and then it'll send it to the grave and special a Blue-Eyes monster from your deck. One of the goals the new Blue-Eyes support is to give you ways to trigger Maiden on her own. Sage is Priest is perfectly fine as a 1-of because it recycles itself. So like it replaces itself back into the deck. So you really don't need more than one. And Maiden, she's obviously, a lot of the OCG lists are not running her at all, but I still feel like she's a very, very necessary card. A lot of the combos, a lot of the big boards you make revolve around her. So as far as Priestess, I never really felt the need for. You really don't. You can add 2 Blue-Eyes monsters with different names. So like it's kind of like in a melody whenever she's targeted for an effect, and she can special herself from grave. I just never really found it totally necessary. Same thing kind of goes with Protector. When it's normal, you can special summon a Light Tuner, and it can target an effect monster, and it's kind of like a on-field priest. I just don't really find the need for Protector, to be completely honest. Now, as far as like hand traps, one of the things you'll see is I don't play a lot of defensive cards because I'm just about putting all those big dragons on the board and just killing my opponent or forcing them to overcome it. So that's kind of where Swift Scarecrow and Battle Fader come in. The biggest thing with this deck is you don't really have defensive traps, so naturally like Swift Scarecrow and Battle Fader kind of fit in the deck. Then hand traps, a lot of the OCG lists are running Effect Veiler and Max C. Some are maxing out on Max C, some are running both too. Veiler's kind of deserves a mention because it is a late tape tuner, so you can actually search it with Sage of Eyes of Blue and recycle it with Priest's Effect when they're normal summon. That's pretty nice. Veiler's also a really clutch hand trap right now because it's really good against Monarchs. It stops their Adia plays. It's also not too bad against the Pendulum decks. It stops Sorcerer and Joker, and it's okay against Cosmos. It does stop their Tin Can and Farm Girl searches if they can't tag out. And then Keeper of the Shrine is a neat card. I think I've play tested this in a lot of Dragon decks. It's not just for Red Eyes. First effect is it's treated as a tribute. You can treat it as 2 tributes for a tribute summon of a dragon monster. So this allows you to tribute summon get your dead Blue Eyes, your Arcbraves, even your Red Eyes Darkness Metals out of your hand. And also, whenever a dragon monster on your side of on face of dragon monster on the field except itself is destroyed, that includes your opponents, you can special summon it from the grave. Then if the monster sent to the grave is a normal monster, you can add a dragon normal from your grave to your hand. So I feel like this card isn't bad, but it's better in the Dragon Shrine versions of this deck. In the Arcbrave build, you're not really playing Dragon Shrine, you're playing Dragon Ravine and stuff like that. But if you are playing Dragon Shrine, this card fits pretty good. Another card I've been noticing that's been going up in price is Quackimiru Drago. Obviously, it's got the copies from Raging Battle are really expensive. For good reason. If you don't know what this card does, it's basically like a vanity. It's basically like all the Quackimiru cards. You keep it on the board by revealing a dragon monster from your hand, and it's basically like a Vanity's Emptiness for light and dark monsters. So the cool thing about this card is that you can reveal, say, a Blue Eyes from your hand to keep it on the field, or if you happen to be playing, say, Magicians or like Pendulum variants, you can reveal one of your Draco monsters from your hand. You can reveal Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon, or if you're playing something like if you're playing blue, basically like you can reveal dragon type monsters to keep it on the field. You can also reveal another copy of itself. It's really good for obvious reasons because it's really good against, it's pretty good against Cosmos because it forces them to tribute summon their monsters to get over it. It's really good against obviously it's really good against PK Fire because they can't special their monsters from hand, and do all these stupid combos. And it's also really good against Blue Eyes because it prevents your opponent from getting all their monsters are light types and darks. So unless they want to tribute summon, it really slows them down. Overall, I think it's a really solid card, and if you're siding against or in Blue Eyes, definitely need to keep an eye out on this card. Then, of course, there's Amorphage Iridium. This card is coming out in Shining Victories. The reason this card is relevant is because when you make Dark Matter Dragon, you can actually send it with Arcbrave Dragon, then bring it right back and lock your opponent out of special summoning from their extra deck. So most of the time, your opponent, very few decks are going to be able to out Dark Matter Dragon without using their extra deck if it's not Monarch or Cosmos. A lot of decks will just fold if you drop this with their Dark Matter Dragon out. So overall, I think it's not a terrible card to side and maybe at a 1. A lot of the Arcbrave Turbo builds I've seen run just 1. Wingbeater Giant Dragon is basically it's like a heavy storm with for dragons, except the only cost is you bounce a level 5 or higher dragon type monster you control to your hand. So you already should be probably playing Triple Twin Twister in a deck like this, but Wingbeat is definitely not a bad alternative. I've seen it played in a lot of Heraldic decks in the past, and it's definitely something that your opponent is definitely not. If they're not set up for it, they're going to get wrecked by it. Cards of Consonance is something I just don't feel the need for it because you only have 4 targets for it. You can also run Wonder Wand as well because and this card will also trigger Maiden's Effect, but I never really felt it necessary. Dragon Shrine is kind of talked about it a little bit already. Silver's Cry is a bit overkill because you already have Gospel Revival and it's just a better card. Also, as I stated previously, I don't run traps, so by the way, let's go ahead and get to deck profile. So first off, we've got 3 copies of Blue Eyes White Dragon. Again, this is a Blue Eyes deck, so you're running 3. It's your main beater. It's a vanilla, so it can't be targeted with stuff like Fiendish Chain, etc. 2 copies of Arcbrave Dragons. This is one of the new Felgrand cards. When this card is special summon, you can banish as many face-up spell trap cards as your opponent controls as possible. If you do, against 200 attempts for each card banished. You don't get that effect off very often, but you can get it off via Gospel of Revival. And it's really devastating against Pendulum decks or decks that like to play a lot of face-up cards. And once per turn during the standby phase, after this card is in the graveyard because it's sent there in the previous turn, you can special summon one level 8 or 7 or 8 dragon monster from your graveyard except Arcbrave. So essentially, it's sort of like a Fire King High Avatar Garunix. Whenever it's sent to the graveyard, it brings a monster back in the next standby phase except itself. So it's a really, really good card, and I feel like it just. And then I'm playing only 2 alternative white dragons. And in a lot of playtesting, I found that 3 got really, really bricky. You don't really need more than 2 typically. Like I've never really had a chance to summon the 3rd one. So yeah. Then 2 copies of Felgrand, the Great Divine Dragon. So this is the new boss monster for the Felgrand deck. If this card is special summoned from the graveyard, you can target 1 monster opponent controls or in their graveyard, banish it, and it gains attack and defense equal to that monster's rank or level times 100. So, and the second effect is if this card destroys opponent's monster by battle, you can target a level Satyr dragon monster in either player's graveyard except itself, special summon it. So not only does it banish, it does target, but it can banish a card from the grave, monster from the grave, and then it gains attack. On top of that, when it runs over a monster by battle, it's a monster reborn for dragons, which is really allows you to, guess what, loop your Arcbrave right back. So it is restricted to level 7 or 8 dragons though, so you can't bring Red Eyes Darkness Metal back, unfortunately. Then 3 copies of Maiden. A lot of the OCG builds I noticed aren't playing Maiden, but Maiden is she's just so good and she really puts in work. I feel like she's a staple. Then 1 copy of Priest with the Eyes of Blue. Like I said, when this is normal summon, it cycles back a light tuner, but the main effect you care about is when it's in the grave, you can shuffle it into the deck from the grave, and then target an effect monster, usually Maiden, you control, send that to the grave, and if you do, special summon a Blue Eyes monster from your deck that's except the set monster. So basically the combo is you target Maiden with Priest, special summon it, you'll get Maiden's effect will trigger special summon Blue Eyes, then Priest's effect will trigger special summoning a Ka Dragon from your deck, basically, and it replaces itself, so you really don't need more than 1. 1 Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon. Again, it's a dragon deck, and this card just extends so many combos, and it's at 1 for a reason. 3 copies of Sage with Eyes of Blue. So if you don't know what Sage does, when it's normal summon, you can add 1 light tuner monster from your deck to your hand. That includes, typically it will be Maiden, but you can also search Priest, you can also search all your stones. And the second effect is you can pitch it from hand and target an effect monster you control, send it to the grave, and if you do, special summon a Blue-Eyes monster from your deck. Most of the time you'll be targeting Maiden, of course, but a lot of times you can also, if you brick and open like Sage and like a stone, you can use Sage's effect to get the dead stone in the grave to set up its effect, so it's really good. 3 copies of the White Stone of Antiquity. If you don't know what White Stone of Antiquity does, it's sort of like a scar once returned in the end phase if it's in the graveyard because it's sent there. This turn you can special summon a Blue-Eyes monster from your deck. The second effect is you can banish it from the grave to target 1 Blue-Eyes monster from your graveyard, add it to your hand. So typically, like, the reason you run 3 of this is because it's one of your most important combo pieces, and I often find, well, it's a card you really want to see as early as possible. Then 1 copy of White Stone of Legend. Because of the way this deck runs with cards like Light Shrine, typically you don't want to have all your Blue-Eyes White Dragons in your hand. Like, you don't really need more than 1 of this. 2 copies of White Cod Dragon. So if you don't know what this card does, it's one of the new support cards. Whenever it's normal, or it's always treated as a Blue-Eyes, and it's a normal monster while it's in the hand or the grave. So when this card is normal special summon, it banishes a spell or trap card your opponent controls. One of the things with the new Blue-Eyes support is the deck is amazing at slaying through back row. Like, most decks like this that don't play a lot of, monsters have trouble fighting through back row. This deck does not. Cod Dragon if you have between Twin Twister, Cod Dragon, and Arcbrave Dragon, you should have no problem just cleaving through back row, and it's one of this deck's like greatest strengths. Then for the spells, 2 copies of Dragon Ravine. Since we are playing the Felgrand variant, you do definitely need to play 2 Dragon Ravine. It's a foolish burial for dragons. It was banned for a reason when the rulers were banned. 3 copies of Gospel Revival. This is basically like a monster reborn for level Satyr 8 dragon monsters. Then the second effect is the one you care about a little bit more. The dragon monsters you control would be destroyed by battle like card effect. You can banish from the grave instead. So say you use Gospel Revival, revive a monster, then start comboing off, and your opponent tries to say, Torrential Tribute you. Well, you can just banish Gospel Revival from grave. That's pretty nice. Then 2 copies of Light Shrine. Light Shrine is the new field spell for Blue-Eyes. If you don't know what Light Shrine does, it's during your main phase. It's like a Pollux for your level 1 Light Tuner monsters. It gives you an extra normal summon. Once per turn, you can target 1 face-up monster you control. Usually that will be Maiden. And then you get to send 1 normal monster from your hand or deck to the graveyard. And if you do that, target gains attack. Then it has a third effect. When it's in the grave, you can banish it to search a Burst Stream of Destruction, which if you don't know what Burst Stream does, it's basically a Regeki while you control a Blue-Eyes White Dragon. But the thing is, your Blue-Eyes White Dragons can't attack. So say you have an alternative art or alternative dragon or a Blue-Eyes out, you can't attack with them, which makes me pretty sad. But it's not a terrible card. You can probably play it at 1, but you already have Regeki. 1 for 1, you have so many level 1 targets. 1 Regeki, like I said, Regeki allows you to clean up fields, 2 terraformings to search our field spells, 3 copies of Trade-In, we have a plethora of level 8s, and then 3 copies of Twin Twister for cleaning up back row, and it does a really good job of unbricking bad hands. Now for the extra deck, 1 copy of Blue-Eyes Twin Burst Dragon. So this is the new fusion monster from Shining Victories. So the effect is it can be fusion summoned, or you can contact fuse by using the above cards you control. So if you have a Blue-Eyes and an alternative art out, you can contact into this. So it cannot be destroyed by battle, and it can make up to 2 attacks on monsters during each battle phase. And at the end of the damage step, if it attacks a monster, it will banish it. So say your opponent has a Dark Destroyer out, you can make Twin Burst, attack, and then banish to get the Dark Destroyer banished to get rid of it. And it prevents all the floating and stuff. Because Cosmos is one of this deck's worst matchups. Then the fact it's a contact fusion makes it just that much better. 2 copies of Azure-Eyes Silver Dragon. I feel like 2 is more than enough. There have been games where I do summon it twice, but you really don't need more than 2. 2 is like the good number. Then 1 copy of Moonlight Rose Dragon, because you can bring it out with Spirit Dragon, and it's really disruptive. Like if your opponent, say your opponent, whenever it's special summoned, it pops, it bounces a card your opponent's special summon monster your opponent controls. It's really good at getting over annoying monsters, etc. Then 3 copies of Blue-Eyes Spirit Dragon. So this is one of the new cards from Shining Victories, so it's a level 9 like Azure. So the effect is neither player can special summon 2 or more monsters at the same time. So basically, if your opponent's playing a Pendulum deck, they can't mass Pendulum summon. And once per turn, and it also has an effect that negates effects in the graveyard once per turn. And during either player's turn, you contribute it to special summon 1 light dragon monster from your extra deck in defense position, but it's destroyed during the end phase. Doesn't really matter if you summon Azure, because most of the time, your Azure's effect, when you drop your Azure, its effect's going to trigger and it's not going to die in the end phase. The main thing about Spirit Dragon you need to be careful of is early. If you make it early game, you really need to use it during your opponent's standby phase in case they have Regeki. I can't name how many times I'll wait till my opponent's main phase and they'll Regeki my field and I will just cry salty tears. 1 copy of Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon. The way you make this is by bringing out Moonlight Rose or Michael with Spirit Dragon and then using one of your level 1 tuners. Crystal Wing is an amazingly good card. It's just not easy to bring out in this deck of, say, something like Speedroids. So it's a great card against Cosmos, provided they don't have Mojo or something like that set. 1 copy of Michael. Michael's another target for Spirit Dragon. Allows you to play 1,000 to banish a monster. It's really good at getting over annoying threats. Then for the Exceeds, it's all rank 8s. 1 copy of Divine Dragonite Felgrand. Felgrand is, even though you do have Harbinger, Felgrand is still really good because it allows you to disrupt your opponent's plays. And then for the Tachyon Dragons, the 1 copy of number 62 Galaxy Eyes Prime Photon Dragon. It does have an effect that it gains attack equal during damage calc. It can detach and exceed material to gain attack equals to all the ranks of the Exceed monsters on the field by 200. But if it doesn't have Galaxy Eyes Photon Dragon attacks, it does half damage. Most of the time, if you do make this, it's just going to be to go straight into full armor and into dark matter. Then 1 copy of Tachyon Dragon. Tachyon Dragon is really good because it helps you to fight through floaters. Floaters can be pretty problematic for a deck like this, and this card just can attack every time they trigger an effect during the battle phase. It's really good. 1 copy of Galaxy Eyes Full Armor Photon Dragon. This is just like, it's just another gateway to get into dark matter, but allows you to pop up a face-up card. Then 1 copy of number 38 Hope Harbinger Dragon Titanic Galaxy. Such a stupid name, but it's a great card because not only can it redirect attacks, it can negate a spell card and attach it as Exceed material. It's really good at keeping your boards protected and stopping pendulums. Then 1 copy of new dumb Galaxy Eyes Dumb Dragon. So Dark Matter Dragon is probably one of the most important combo pieces for this deck. So when you do go into it, your opponent has to banish 3 monsters from their deck, and you get to send 3 dragons with different names from your deck to the graveyard. Typically that's going to be Arcbrave, Felgrand Dragon, and Whitestone of Antiquity. By the time your opponent gets to their next main phase, you're going to get 2 free monsters off of both Antiquity and Arcbrave, and all that's going to trigger before they even get to their main phase. That's really, really good. So anyway, guys, always thank you guys for watching the video today. Really appreciate it when you guys watch my videos. So on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays for more Yugioh content. If you liked what you saw in this video, please subscribe. Orstorm, signing out.